Today is November 14, 2022, and this week there were 140 reported cases of COVID-19 in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg County area, which shows a steady average over the last 2 weeks. Therefore, each subject is comfortable not wearing a mask. And I have the pleasure of interviewing JCSU. I'm going to give him the opportunity to introduce himself.
Right. So, thank you. Thank you for having me. My name is Adonis. I'm a sophomore here at Johnson C. Smith, computer engineering major with a minor in data science and mathematics, and currently serve as Mr. International here at JCSU. And what do I want to do with my degree, of course? I want to become an artificial intelligence developer. This is an interest that stemmed from wanting to solve financial and social problems.
Okay, and thank you for that. And I'd like to, get to know a little bit more about you. So, where were you born?
Right. So I was born in the south of Africa, in a beautiful country called Zimbabwe. You might have heard of it because we have one of the 7 wonders of the world called Victoria Falls. So yeah.
All right. And where is home for you right now?
Home is JCSU. I haven't been in Africa, of course, in about 2 years now. So this has been my home. I've managed to build, make relations, and comfortably settle in.
Okay. So when the pandemic started, the COVID-19 pandemic started, you were here in Charlotte?
No, actually, when the pandemic started, I was in Zimbabwe. I had just graduated from high school, so I took the whole gap year. So I finished high school in December of 2019, and in March, between January and March, I was really just playing tennis. And then my professional career, tennis career, was about to kick off, and then the pandemic happened, no tennis, and things changed.
Okay, and if you could elaborate more on that when you say your professional career was about to kick off, were, I wouldn't say scouts, I'm not sure how they would word it with tennis, but did people show interest in you?
Yes. So I started playing tennis at the age of 13.
Okay.
It's very late. But compared to a lot of people that have played on the tour. And I started playing for my country in my second year of high school. And I had been playing for my country since then. So I was in contact with a lot of tennis professionals in Zimbabwe, got the chance to play with them, be mentored by them. So I was already in that environment and played tournaments internationally. So I traveled different countries. I was fortunate to have sponsors that helped me through this, but then all this changed the moment COVID hit, and the circuit, I think, was cut off in most countries, especially the ones that are close to me. And then from then, I didn't get to compete, and I went straight into college tennis. So that's when I came here the following year. That's spring 21, January.
Okay. And how did you feel during that time when you weren't able to continue professionally? How was that transition for you?
It was difficult, I'll be honest, because I love tennis. I played tennis religiously. So I would play tennis sometimes at least 6 times a week for at least 4 hours a day, and still keep up with school and everything and travel. So life of a student athlete, basically. And my development as a person came from my environment, the people I played tennis with. And tennis players are great people. So that helped shape me to be who I am. And not having to see all those people, right? And doing the thing that I love was a drastic change in my life. I had to find ways, of course, to continue living, moving on, and of course I just graduated, I had nothing to do, sit home. But there were a couple of innovative things I did to keep me busy, and I learned a lot during COVID.
You learned a lot, and that's great. Now, what did you do to stay busy? What were some things that you might have gained?
So I started a business in high school in 2018. So that was what do you call it? That's probably your junior year in high school here.
Yes.
So when I started my business, it was an affiliate marketing business. I was with a company called Carrot Bars International. So it's a gold-based. They sell gold-based products and gold-based cryptocurrency. So I'm a blockchain fanatic. I say that because if you give me a presentation, basically all the presentations I was given, even my public speaking class here on campus, I told people about blockchain because it's the future of the world, basically. So
it's called blockchain.
Blockchain technology.
I do want you to explain a little more what that is, but I'll go ahead.
Right. Okay. So blockchain is basically a public ledger that's able to store information. It is immutable. It is transparent. So that type of technology can be used in a whole lot of areas. So one area that you probably hear about is cryptocurrency, aka Bitcoin, right?
Yes.
So there's a lot of things going on about Bitcoin. It's an emerging technology. It has a value. I think I checked today. It was about 16,000 for one Bitcoin. About 10 years ago, Bitcoin was about $1. So it's something that has stood the test of time, basically, and something that people should latch on. So that's what I'm into. So I got to learn that over the pandemic, affiliating for this company, a great company, the first voice over blockchain phone that's connected to the satellite and everything. So it's cool. So I mean, I'm a computer engineer. I'm interested in all those things. So yeah, people always laugh at me when I keep my Android, but I have my reasons because I'm a developer. But it is what it is.
No, it's absolutely all right. I was Apple tech, so I completely understand. I tell people all the time, Androids are actually better than iPhones. In
most areas, definitely.
Yeah, it's when it comes to the tech specs of it.
Yeah, and I like playing with my toys, so I can't really do much on Apple. For example, I created an application. If I had an Apple phone, I wouldn't be able to install it in my phone. So stuff like that matters.
Definitely, I completely agree with you.
Yes.
So, what I would like to talk about too, because we did start off with the hand map activity. I would love you to share some things that you wrote on your hand and on the outside of it.
Oh no. Right, outside of it. So where do I start? Inside or outside of the hand?
It's completely up to you.
Right. I'll try and go in order of the questions you asked me at first. So, what describes me? Like, where does that describe me? So that is on my fingertips, right? I said I'm powerful, resilient, loving, suave, and fun. So I picked all these words because it's not only someone that I desire to be, but it's also, this is someone that people tell me I am. So it's always good when you have friends around you that tell you who you are and that know you, because it helps you like stay accountable, you know. And I always tell my friends where I'm going, where I want to go, and they're like, I don't think you'd be doing that if you really wanted to go there. So they always describe me with these words, and yeah, I got to learn the meaning of suave when a friend of mine wrote me a letter and then was like, I'm a suave person. I'm like, what? Okay, I'm poised, I'm everything. So it's always interesting.
Yeah.
And then you said try and draw like the lines that are inside your palm, right? And then on these lines, draw, was it something that defines you? Or like journeys?
Your journeys, yes.
Journeys. So, so first one is orphan. So I lost both my parents, lost my mom, my dad. They divorced when I was 4, so I really grew up with a single mother. I got to see my dad about 6 times in my life before he passed away. It was a whole interesting family dynamic because there's a lot of us and we have about counting siblings from my mom and dad's side, I would say about 11. So it's a big family. But I'm the only one from my mom and dad. So I say that because a lot of my personality, who I am, is shaped by the stuff I experienced as a child, and hence my motivation to also not make anyone be in those situations and try to make kids who grew up in my situation, live a better life, be motivated, keep striving, and it's orphan. Second to that, this is getting interesting. Wow.
Very. Interesting.
Journey, heartbreak. So I lost the love of my life this June. It was an interesting time. From then, of course, you still feel the remnants. I guess it's my first college heartbreak,
Yeah.
It's the most. But it is what it is. And then I'm Christian. So I found solace in knowing the man Jesus, right? My mom was someone who I always looked up to because I didn't understand the stuff she did, like the way she read the Bible, the way she prayed, the way I grew up literally in church, reciting verses, singing. I was that kid. It was cool, and it's an interesting journey because it has also shaped my perspective on life and the man I am, and how I am not easily swayed by all these things that happen around you. Like there's a lot of things that happen in college. You're letting life alone, right?
Yes.
And then tennis. Well, I love tennis. Started loving tennis age of 12. That's when I won my first tournament as well. I was big. At 11 years old, I was 69 kgs, which is about, I'd say maybe between 155 and 165.
At 12.
At 12. So tennis saved me in a lot of areas in my life. I became fit. I met great people. There's this whole interesting thing that I like saying, like, you're the average of the 5 people you hang around the most, like their character. That is true. People that are around you, they influence you in a certain way. So definitely, I'm proud of the man I am today, partly because I spend most of the time on the tennis court with great people, ambitious people, and I kept being ambitious myself and doing all these things, which is cool. And I always love tennis for that. And then next, personal development. I always try and do something to increase value for myself. So, of course, I started my business in 2018. Started affiliate marketing, learning about blockchain technology. One of the things that I want to do is be a blockchain developer, develop applications and stuff, monetize on the blockchain, because it's going to be used eventually in all the industries because of the benefits that the blockchain has. And I'm an artificial intelligence engineer, so I'm learning machine learning. So that's one of the things that I've added to personal development. Learned different languages and coding, Python and Java, which took me to the NFL draft this year. So I did a hackathon for the NFL called HBCU Battle of the Brains, and we picked the NFL's favorite. We created an application, had a business proposal for a problem in their company, and we did very well. They even sponsored us going to the NFL draft. We had a whole VIP backstage, handed picks to the players. So it was an interesting thing. So that's what personal development helps you, when you know what you want in life and you keep honing on those, and then you do these hackathons. It has really helped me grow. I met people that are doing what I want. I always, one thing I always do as part of personal development is bug people that are doing what I want. I'm like, hey, can I have 30 minutes of your time? I just want to know more about what you do. That's how I also figured out what I want to do in life. Like, okay, there's a lot of things you can do in tech, but I want AI. So I figured that out through, I call them informational interviews, right? So I also not only develop myself in terms of skills, but personality as well. Read a book, Atomic Habits. Very good book.
That's actually on my list.
Nice. You should definitely read it. And then what's the last thing is Sigma. So I crossed Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated this year, spring 22. It was an interesting journey to Sigma Land. Definitely made some brothers for life, and I've been meeting a lot of brothers from all over. It's a world network, and not only is this confined to my fraternity, but I also meet a lot of Greek life. For example, when I went to the NFL draft, I met a lot of Greeks, a lot of Omegas, a lot of Kappas, a lot of AKAs, Deltas. It was just interesting, and we understand each other in a special way, which is good, and then we support each other. Like, it's crazy just being supported by someone you don't even know because you're Greek, and then they're willing to help you out if there's anything that you need. So that was interesting. I believe I've joined a great network that is useful and that I'll use for the rest of my life. And the other thing, I would say entrepreneurship, which I already explained.
Yes.
Yes. And then one thing I learned from the pandemic, financial literacy, definitely started thinking about, okay, if something like this happens again, where exactly would I want to be in life? So I started thinking along the lines of, okay, I already love computers. Like, I already did robotics in high school. And then I was part of the team. I was the president for the team at my high school that won the second place in the world for the World Clean Tech competition. So that was good. So I was already in that environment and programming a bit, making these robots. So I was like, okay, why not do computer engineering? So hence me being in an industry that is 6-figure income straight out of college, which is cool because I have a lot of ideas of things I want to do, and I looked at it. What's the lifestyle I want to live? How much money would I need? Where can I get that? Does it resonate with me? And it's all yes. So that is good. And then feelings associated with the pandemic. Grief, joy, and pain. So I actually didn't stay with my family over the pandemic. I stayed with a tennis friend because I live on the outskirts and I had to continue running my online business, my network marketing business. So during this time, it was difficult being away from my family, but I also met a new family. I got to understand the family. They're called my JCSU, such wonderful people. I stayed with them for a whole year, learned a lot about myself, got to love them. I always call the mom my mom because she is, Veronica, that's her name. She's an amazing person, so she's my mom. I'm glad I have a second mom, so all that, it brought grief, joy, and pain. Like, there were difficult moments. I got to spend time with myself. Being with yourself is a difficult thing. And I'm happy that I got to deal with being with myself, got to love myself. We changed a whole lot of things and my outlook on life. And then the last bit, I think the question was, who inspires you, right?
And who supports you.
Who supports you, right? So it's John Akasule. He's one of my sponsors in tennis. He's my sponsor, my friend, my best friend. He's like a dad, though he's not my dad. He's an amazing person. He helped me through the journey of even my business, my family, supporting me, supporting my family, helping me get through school, chipping in whenever I need anything. And I grew a lot being with him. And he's a doctor, he's a specialist, anesthetist. I wanted to be a doctor, but then I, of course, changed that. I was like, let me do something I'm already doing that I love. So he's one person who will support me all the time. And then the Majia family, that's the family I stayed with over COVID. I loved them. I learned a lot from them. They supported me. They took me in just because we know each other in the tennis community, like just like that. You can come stay in my house. Stay there for a whole year. Supported me. Went through a lot together, and it was an interesting time with them. And then Kevin Zadai is he's a pilot, he's a captain. I watch a lot of his YouTube videos. He's also a pastor, and I've learned a lot of valuable things from him. In terms of his journey, as an amazing journey, the stuff he went through, I resonate with, and how he overcame. That story just inspires me, and I always look up to him. So he's my role model, and yeah, that's it. That's my hand.
That's your hand. So you did a lot of self-reflecting there.
Yes, I did.
Piggybacking off of what you said when it came to your family,
Right.
So when the pandemic started, I know you said you were home and things like that, and you were transitioning because after you found out that you wouldn't be able to continue on a professional level with tennis, so now we're moving to JCSU.
Right.
Where you have your extended family.
Right.
Correct?
Yes.
So, how was it for you, learning to love yourself and being with them? I kind of want you to explain a little more in depth of that journey, if you don't mind.
Right. So, I always grew up in it's more of a laid-back environment because it was just me and my sisters, and I guess to some extent, you're not really held accountable to that extent to a lot of things that you do. But I was always I'm always a respectful person, ambitious, always be out playing tennis. Everybody knew where to find me. Either I'm at the tennis court or I'm at home. That's the life I lived, basically. So moving from them and then into a whole family that has a mom, a dad, and kids, it was different. I wasn't used to that. I was always used to being with my sister, being with my nephew, being with my niece. We just stay right having fun. We keep it moving, right? And then I got to learn a lot of principles. If I tell you that every day you would wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, even during the pandemic, it was an interesting thing that I learned. I learned discipline from the Manchia family. The fact that you have to be disciplined, and you stand alone in this world. There's no one but it's you. You have to make things work. You have to make the changes that are necessary to get where you want. So you need to start, basically. I learned that you need to start. So even in my business, I got some advice from the dad, how to run the business, people are difficult to deal with. And I got to learn a couple of things, dealing with people, talking to people, which is always fun. I think people are interesting. That's why I always love to be in an environment where there's people. So that was an interesting transition, and staying with them for a whole year, It passed by so fast. And then by the time it was time for me to come to college, I was like, wow, I'm going to be away for a long time.
Yeah.
So, of course I cried. I cried. I cried before I left the house. I cried when I saw my family. Cried before I left, because you're going into a whole new environment. And came here, felt like I was alone for a bit, but I was with my coach. So that made it better.
That's good. Now, how was it adapting to the new environment?
So thankfully, through playing a lot of tournaments, you meet people from all walks of the earth, I guess. And communicating, with people, being used to different people. It was good, right? But then I always laugh when I say this. Americans speak very fast. So when I got here, the hardest thing was ordering food. There was like so many choices. I'm like, I just want a burger, with cheese, with a patty and tomatoes. And then what kind of cheese? I wasn't even used to being asked the question, what kind of cheese do you want? So that was a little stress. I was rough about that. But small things like that, the way people react to, I think coming from an environment in Africa where I feel like it was more supportive. Like, it's not crazy for me to ask someone, I want to get to the street, how do I get there, right? So I remember I asked a Caucasian man that, and he freaked out before he answered me. And then I'm like, okay, I'm not a threat. And that was an interesting dynamic, of course, learning. And then I got to learn a lot about the American history, the things that happened here. And then I'm like, okay, so sometimes you're looked at in this way, sometimes you're looked at in this way. So I'm fortunate that I had people around me that taught me all these things, and how sometimes people can be conniving and everything. So a lot of the things that I didn't know were really magnified here. So that was an interesting change, and people around me really helped me.
Okay, including your tennis.
My tennis team and my coach.
Yes.
Who left, by the way. So that's
how was that for you?
That was heartbreaking because we bonded for a whole year. So one thing I value for a tennis coach is the relationship, right? And hence me picking to be at JCSU because she was here. Her name is Coach Ramona, and she left. They moved as a family, right? So in that move, it was heartbreaking because she supported me. She taught me a lot of the things that I know. She gave me a whole mindset shift in terms of tennis. Of course, I'd learned a lot, right? But then the stuff I learned here, how to compete in this environment and everything, it was interesting and it was valuable. I wish I had more time with her. I wish she was still my coach, but unfortunately she moved. I got the option to move with her, the scholarship and everything, but we both discussed even the way I'd set up my life, with the personal development things I had going on, being part of certain clubs, having a big network, the things I'd established here in the short time that I got here, and where she was going, and if those things were available. And then we both came to the conclusion that as much as I'd love to have you, I don't think this is the right place for you to grow in all those areas in your life. So at least despite her wanting me, she was able to let me go, and to this day we still talk. Whenever she's in town, we play tennis. She still passes down tennis opportunities to me. She's invested in my life, and when you meet someone who cares for you like that, you don't let them go.
Okay, and I'm glad that you all, still keep in contact. And you mentioned that, you were involved in some clubs and organizations and things like that. That was one of the reasons why, you stayed as well. If you could tell me more about that.
So I'm the president for Esports and Gamers Development Club, where our goal is to be able to train players from grassroots level to professional level. Esports is a $2 billion industry. There's a whole lot of opportunities. And if a kid who just has a PS5 just plays a game for 4 hours a day, 20 hours a week, that's a lot of time invested. You might as well make money from it, despite you still doing your school and everything. So we're able to highlight those opportunities, and we have a good esports program. So I am part of that. I am a senator for National Society for Black Engineers. So this is where you find a lot of computer engineers, computer scientists, which is really my group, my clan. And we teach each other basically how to code, how to upskill in different areas that you want to go, and you meet people that are in these industries, and they teach you like what you have to do. They show you like the best direction. Like, okay, you want this. This is the best route for it. You know, all those things. And I think it's always interesting when you have those people that help guide you in your career, right? And what else do I do? I'm part of Career Ambassadors program, where I'm a campus ambassador. We do a lot of things like personal development, you know, teach people about LinkedIn, how to be effective there, how to brand yourself, because you need to carry yourself in a certain way. You need to show yourself out, like your authentic self, and still be in a profession. That's a difficult thing. Apparently, I learned that, like, be your authentic self in a professional environment. But I got to learn how to do that. And what else do I do? Part of the men's tennis team. I am career pathways. It's almost the same thing as career ambassadors. But we basically help people figure out what they want to do with their lives, help them develop. So we do like small things like resume workshops, you know, and talking about where you want to go, internships, jobs. I'm also a member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, where our motto is brotherhood, scholarship, and service. So we do vibrant work in the community, and then we basically help campus with a vibe, and you know, make it a college environment, make it a safe environment, make it fun, you know. So we do a lot of service, of course, and I have brothers for life. I always love that. I think that's just about it. That's just about what I do on campus. I don't think I left anything out.
Yes, and it seems like you're heavily involved. We'd love to see that and hear it. What do you think your future will look like?
Bright. My future is bright. If I'm to speak, maybe 5 years from now, I see myself being an artificial intelligence engineer. I see myself starting, having a startup company, right? So I do run a business. It's I do forex trading in the financial market, where I build most of my capital to do all the things that I want, really. That has been my job, because as a student athlete, I realized I don't even get time. If I wanted to work, don't get time to do that. So I was like, okay, what can I do online anytime that helps me? So that's how I got into that. So with that entrepreneurship mindset, things that I do, I really believe that I'll be able to do startups. So I want to develop the African community. So that's one thing that I want to do within the next 5 years. I want to start that. Also want to start a YouTube channel. Thought of it like a month ago, concerning tech, because I have the opportunity of learning a lot of things that I haven't in tech, being specific in certain things. So why not tell people, you know? So that's something that might start up next year. You know, we'll see how that goes. And of course, being an artificial intelligence, so I'm looking at the FANG companies. So I'm looking at Google, Meta, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Microsoft, eBay, Amazon. I would say Amazon. So those are the kind of companies that I'm looking for, tech companies, because I want to sharpen my skills. I want to be able to be part of the best, learn from the best, and also have my startups back in Africa, because I feel like we lack a lot in the technology industry. And I want to be one person who's going to be able to, you know, show you that pathway, and also like groom people, help Zimbabwe and Africa at large be self-sufficient in that area. So that's where I see myself in the next 5 years. Oh. Hopefully I'll be a father in 4 years. But yeah.
All right, and just to be mindful of your time, I would like to ask one last question. Is there any advice that you would, give, or be able to give, or anything that you have left that you would like to share?
Right. Gosh. What do I pick from? Okay, so I'll pick something that's in front of my, what do you call this? Your headboard, where I put my clothes. I wrote a quote. I think it's actually Adidas motto. Progress is progress, no matter how small. So I was like at a stage in my life where I've been working on myself, and that's the best thing you can do. Like, work on yourself. You are the valuable asset. You are currency. And once you add value to yourself, people will always want you. Money will always follow you. I think making things about people and not being self-centered is one thing that has helped me excel in life and be content in whatever situation. Be happy, have people around me that love me. I'm a family-oriented person. I love my friends. I support my friends. I love my brothers. It's just, I think when you make things about people and you work with people that are heading the right direction or where you want to go in life, that's the best thing you can do for yourself and excel. So I think we leave it at there for now. There's a lot I could have said, but it was an interesting thing picking this one.
Well,
yeah.
I do thank you so much for sharing your wonderful, amazing, and powerful story. Thank you.
Thank you very much.